Welcome back to another episode of the No Followers podcast. I'm T, and we have Bob and our special guest, Mike Argosh.
Have you been shocked by anything? Like, you come at it a little differently, right? A lot of the innovation from academic to our scientists who now, I'll be kind, we're told they could be the CEO of their technology. Most universities will say, well, it's your technology, we're going to build a company around you, right? That's a pretty typical model. You're coming at it from different because you have this business background and you came onto the project after they'd already been working on it. Are there things that shocked you when you made that transition out?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think there was there was a lot of unknown. Right?
Let's get into it.
I did not come from a background of scaling technology out of a lab. I was building businesses, not taking new tech from from an experiment to something that can exist at a big industrial site. A ton of unknowns. Anything that shocked me? I think one of the things that I've been able to do early that have been very valuable is just, immersing myself in a number of these communities of other, scientific research that is coming out of the lab to solve problems related to climate. And then there are just, I think the thing that shocked me is the sheer number of companies like ours that are at our stage. And I know that is, that's constantly, that's a constant, right? Because there's continues to be amazing research that's done in universities across the United States. That's our biggest asset, right? Like, we have these amazing research universities. That's what separates the U.S. economy and innovation and new discovery from really the rest of the world, I think, is, our biggest export's education, right? So it's like people are coming here to invent cool stuff and impactful stuff. And so I think that is really, the big shock for me was like, there's a lot of people doing this. And then, I think it's just like, it's hard. People are going to, that sounds cliche to say, but there's going to be a lot of us that are not going to make it. We'll have to, I think what's going to separate us is that we're gritty and we have our eye on the end state of where we want to go.
Yeah. Well, and I think you hammered on something that shows a level of emotional intelligence and self-awareness that is something that we usually have to convince people of, which is, you said there's a lot of other people doing this.
Yeah.
And even though you think you bring something unique to the table, which I'm sure you do, yeah, the awareness to go, there are other options. Yeah. There are substitutes, there are competitors. We frequently hear people come in and go, this is my thing. And we go, who are your competitors? And they go, there are none. Right. There's no one else that makes this widget the way I make it and as good as I make it. Right. Well, in our opinion, now you're starting behind the eight ball because you can't take an honest view of the landscape. And if you can't take an honest view of the landscape, how do you know where you fit in?
Right.
So I think good on you guys for making that kind of open and honest assessment and then going, okay, this is where we go.
Right. Well, that's the trap with early stage technology development, right? Is people who were so focused on who's building the most efficient X, yeah, right? And if you just look at history and sort of how things are shaping out, and give an example from our space, right? The energy space. What is the batteries that are in every Tesla and F-150 Lightning and people's, that are, in backup power generation for data centers are all lithium-ion batteries, right? And those will, continue to be the dominant battery chemistry for at least, the next 5 to 10 years. And was that the most efficient battery chemistry ever invented? Absolutely not. Yeah. But that was the one that got set down the manufacturing cost curve first and got to a point where it was cheap enough to, produce a lot of them, right? Probably Tesla was in some way sort of responsible for that, for scaling up the manufacturing of that first, right? But those are the things that drive winners in these technology markets, not necessarily who's the best, most efficient.
And that's something that we preach all the time, but you hit on it. a lot of times engineers and scientists and even, hobbyist inventors, they want to get everything perfect. And you miss so much of market prominence by being late to the game or never getting into the game because they're always trying to perfect something and they're afraid to let it go. You almost started rant 2 when you dropped,
not going for
when you dropped Tesla.
I'm not taking the bait. I'm not taking
There's
the
a few
bait.
words I should have slid you not to bring up because then he gets all crazy.
No, that's
I could
what
go
I
all
think.
day on the pros, on the positives and the negatives of
Yeah,
Tesla.
I think that's what they should be doing is making batteries.
Right.
I don't think they should be doing.
You don't
anything
think
else,
that was
but-
his model, though? He
you
built a car company to make the batteries.
Well,
the car
no.
company was the Trojan horse. It was a shell game.
I agree with you that it's a shell game. I think he's running a hardware company and saying it's a software company. That's,
Well, I mean, I
Better
think,
multiples, just saying.
100% better multiples.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. But I also think we've seen, I don't know if some of the latest autopilot crash news. It's like, it's tough to treat something like a car with the development cycles of software
Right.
when you have people's lives
There's
on the
real,
line,
yeah, like
right?
it's, we talk about frequently with customers when we talk about defining your MVP. And we have people that come from a tech world and they will define their MVP as their proof of concept.
Yeah.
And we're like, there's a real problem in the hardware world because if you have a bug, you can't push out an over-the-air patch while everyone sleeps at night.
Right.
If you put 1,000 units out that have a bad seal in the shock absorber, you got to get 1,000 units back, or you got to send techs into the field, or you got to issue a service up. You got to have the infrastructure to do that.
Yeah.
And so even just defining that MVP is always a challenge. But it's, that's, I'm not going to take the bait. I'm not taking the bait, but I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
Your working MVP is tabletop, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the next iteration is 20 foot.
Yeah, so right now we have kind of like I would call it the Apple TV size system that we rigged up to a fuel cell and a drone that can power and fly a drone. And next will be our toaster size, which is kind of what we view as a building block for our larger system size, so our module. And then in the next couple of years, in the next really 12 to 24 months, we want to get to our demonstration project, which we can then go put on a customer site where 20-foot shipping container.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. We'll talk after. I want to know more. Yeah, that's awesome though. Yeah.
So at this stage of where you are and going forward, what advice would you give to somebody that's sitting in their basement or thinking about taking technology from another source to commercialize? And we do that a lot, and we do it a very different way than one technology at a time because we like grouping and we don't like reinventing the wheel all the time. Right. And we've talked about this, but if you can give some high-level notes to people, because they're sick of hearing from us anyway. So, you're the expert in the room, so.
Yeah, I mean, I would say get to know your market that you're going to sell into so well that you can basically pre-sell your product before you even have a product.
So how are you doing that? So with examples so people understand.
Yeah. So in the first couple months of us being a company, really I spent 100% of my time getting to know as many hydrogen producers and hydrogen users as I can. So really immersing myself in the space because, like I said, I came from the energy space, but not specifically the hydrogen space, which I viewed as an advantage, but it left me with a little bit of relationship debt that I needed to kind of to pay back. And so, I think, we've done, easily over 100 interviews with potential, customers and partners, and nothing can fast track that process, right? It's got to get out there. It's age old. It's, when I heard it, it's roll your eyes kind of obvious advice, but nothing beats it. And then also doing it in person too, like it's just like a whole nother level of, learning. And, everybody's so comfortable jumping on a call now, but you really you miss some of the like, true goodness of like where people are concerned and struggling. And that's like getting people to talk about like things that they're not so excited about, and not like, oh, cool product, like this is new stuff, but like actually trying to pull out of them, like, what are the things you haven't figured out? And like that you don't think you're going to be able to figure out, like that's an opportunity for your technology. So yeah, I mean, I think like being able to get to the point where you can say to someone like, all right, would you be willing to like commit to buying our product if we reach this certain development milestone in the next year? And you can get that before you even start a company. Like, that's a good place to be. We were not that.
Soon.
Yeah. Well, but it hits it right on the head of understanding your customer base and what are their pain points.
Yeah.
And how are you going to address them?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Killer. Yeah. Bob?
I'm getting the signal. I'm getting the yank.
Well,
The
Mike,
hook.
thank you so much for coming here. Thanks for sharing some insight, hitting us with some knowledge.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely be watching and rooting for you.
Yeah.
And
And we'll show up on site once it starts.
Yeah,
Once we
let's
get
go.
out
I
in the
appreciate
field.
that. Yeah, I'm excited. You guys
Yeah.
you'll be the first persons to know.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Killer.
Michael.
Good for you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right. See you next time.